Quick question. Given the chance to reincarnate into a new world, would you take it? However, there's a catch. The reincarnation world is a complete gamble. It could be a world of swords and magic, cultivation world, or maybe one of absolute horror. Given that chance, would you still take it? Let me know the answer in the comments below. Anyway, on to the video. At the Shin-Gyeom Alliance Southern Branch, a weary young traveler arrives, scanning the seemingly empty base and wondering where everyone could be. After all, this was supposed to be the assembly point for their mission. The traveler is Shin-Gyeom Sho, codename Lizard, and his role is intelligence. Sho's musings are interrupted by the appearance of a towering figure, who, flexing his bulging arms, sarcastically remarks, "I heard this mission was supposed to be tough, but here we've got a total rookie showing up." Sho, acknowledging the new arrival, quickly bows and introduces himself, giving more information than necessary: his name, age, and even mentioning his homeland, Mido country. The mysterious figure, who turns out to be Shin-Gyeom Senmun, codename Tombstone, burdened with the role of rescue, quips that it's been a while since they had a rookie. These days, most people become demon swords the moment they awaken. Sho, glancing around warily, whispers a reminder that the Shin-Gyeom Alliance forbids talking about the 12 divine beasts and demonic swords. Senmun scoffs, saying, "What's the point in eliminating yokai if we can't even mention the 12 divine beasts and the demonic swords we become?" Sho, dejected, comments that the rumors must be true. The Alliance deliberately avoids discussing the 12 divine beasts. Senmun confirms this, explaining that for senior members who've already gained wealth and fame, it's not worth risking war with the divine beasts. He advises Sho, telling him that no matter what the higher-ups are doing, he should develop a sense of duty to save people, not just chase money or power. "It's the best way to avoid becoming a corrupt demonic sword," he adds. Sho, like an obedient student, nods. Then, circling back, he asks, "How did you know I was a rookie? Was it because of my new Shin-Gyeom uniform?" Senmun smirks. "I'll tell you if you can draw your sword." Sho, eager to accept the challenge, takes a stance, causing a light breeze and dust cloud to form around him. With a serious face, he reaches for his ribcage where his sword begins to emerge. Finally, he draws his weapon, a gigantic blade with serrations like a massive saw. But the act doesn't come without a price, as his brand new uniform is torn to shreds. Sho, horrified, cries out over his ruined uniform, while Senmun bursts out laughing. "That's how I knew you were a rookie," Senmun says. "Your uniform doesn't have any alterations for drawing your sword." Sho, still bitter, retorts, "You could have just told me that instead of making me destroy my uniform." Senmun chuckles, saying, "It's better to experience it firsthand than be told 1,000 times. Get your uniform altered unless you want to destroy it every time you draw your sword." Reading between the lines, Sho asks if Senmun draws his sword from his left arm. Senmun just laughs, replying, "Maybe it's a trick to confuse my opponents." Noticing new arrivals, Senmun challenges Sho, asking if he can guess where the two newcomers draw their swords. Sho admits he can't tell just by looking, and Senmun uses this as a teachable moment, saying, "Not being able to predict where the sword draw comes from is one of the basic tactics of Shin-Gyeom. I don't blame Sho, though, because the new arrivals turn out to be absolute mommies, seemingly in contrast to each other. They are the slutty Shin-Gyeom Maki and the conservative Shin-Gyeom Shion. Maki complains about their first field deployment being a group mission, which would reduce her number of prey. Shion, ever the pragmatist, agrees, grumbling about having to split the reward, emphasizing her nickname, Lone Shark. Gazing mischievously at her friend, Maki suggests they spar after the mission to settle their previous fight. Shion immediately declines, refusing anything that doesn't bring her money. Maki, knowing her well, teases, "Too bad, I was going to wager my earnings from this mission." Falling for the bait, Shion accepts the challenge, proposing a best-of-3 match. I don't want to go on without acknowledging this panel. Damn. I almost excused myself to use the bathroom real quick. Maki Mami for the win. Sho, still a bit green, turns to Senmun and asks, "Didn't you just say Shin-Gyeom shouldn't chase after money and power?" Senmun, a bit embarrassed, replies, "Well, there are always some exceptions." Switching the subject, Senmun warns Sho that revealing his sword as soon as someone asks is also a rookie mistake. A Shin-Gyeom sword form is a key tactic. Don't show it carelessly. Sho points to a figure holding a drawn sword and asks, "Then why is that person's sword out?" The figure in question, an absolute Chad striking a cool pose, is Shin-Gyeom niece, codename Goldeye. His role, protection. Senmin replies that for someone as goated as him, such tactics are unnecessary. He further explains that the reason a rookie like Sho was allowed to join this high-difficulty mission was mostly because Niece would be joining them. Sho, curious, asks Senmin if he knows Niece. The latter replies that he does, though this is the first time seeing him in person. We learn that in the early days, the Shin-Gyeom Alliance bestowed a title to the 9 strongest Shin-Gyeom members who were tasked with combating the 12 divine beasts. They were the 9 heavenly swords. However, 2 of the 9 betrayed the alliance and became demonic swords. Their positions have remained vacant to this day. Recently, however, 2 absolute geniuses have risen with remarkable achievements and feats, and are widely considered as candidates for the 9 heavenly swords. One of them is said to have white hair and gold eyes. I'm sure you all know who he is, our boy Yuhwa. Curious, Sho asks if Nice is a candidate for the 9 heavenly swords, and Senmin confirms this. His blindfold probably hides his golden eyes. Sho looks contemplative, and Senmin notices. You envious of the title of 9 heavenly swords? Sho quickly denies it, saying, I'm just a rookie. Senmin then points out another rookie mistake, revealing his name and origin right away. He gestures toward a strange fellow wearing a beast mask, lazily resting on the roof. That's Shin-Gyeom Unknown, role protection, code name, Inukamen. Notice how he keeps his identity hidden. A sudden voice calls the group to attention. A noble MILF mommy, elegant and commanding, announces the mission briefing. Her partner explains that the mission is to exorcise yokai in Fog Village, in the domain of Tsukaba, and investigate the cause of their appearance. The reward: 1 coin per yokai, and an additional 50 coins if they can resolve the root of the problem. Lone Shark perks up at the mention of the generous reward, while Sho is puzzled. 3 coins could cover a family's monthly expenses. Senmin, more experienced, comments, that probably means the mission is dangerous. The noble mommy informs them that the transit carriage is ready, and they should depart soon. As they watch the carriage leave, the noble MILF asks her partner, who turns out to be her grandfather, if everything will be all right. They had experienced multiple failures in the mission after all. The Chad grandpa tells her not to worry, this time will be different. They've assigned a monitor from the Alliance, and most importantly, the goat Nice is with them. The scene shifts to Fog Village, a beautiful but eerily deserted place bathed in the glow of the setting sun. Senmin comments on the odd quietness for a village known for its hot springs, and the village chief explains it's due to the yokai attacks, which have driven away tourists and forced villagers indoors. Lone Shark, quick to note the contradiction, points out the surprising generosity of the village's reward despite its desperate situation. Sho adds that as a tourist spot, the village probably charged exorbitant prices, but the chief denies this, saying the reward is funded personally by Lord Tsukaba. Nize, stepping ahead of the group, told them that they had a few guests they needed to welcome first before proceeding. Drawing his sword, he stood tall before a full pack of yokai, thirsty for blood. The yokai, responding to his challenge, charged forward, their heavy bodies moving with frightening agility for creatures of their size. Senmin, unbothered by the charge, quipped that judging by their timing, one might assume they arrived early and were waiting for them. Sho replied, saying the timing was indeed suspicious. The 2 mommy, not ones to overthink things, quickly leaped to join the fight, as the yokai stones were taken by the ones who captured them after all. Beast Mask also swiftly joined the fight, leaving Sho and Senmin behind. The rookie, eager to prove his skills, geared up to join the fight as well, but was stopped by Senmin. He instructed Sho to stay behind and protect the chief. He should watch and learn from the veterans instead. As a yokai charged at him, Senmin coolly drew his sword, taunting the yokai for choosing the wrong opponent as he readied his attack. Leaping at the yokai, he swung his sword in quick succession, landing multiple blows on the yokai's head. The yokai, tanking the hits, countered with a right jab to Senmin's face, which he barely blocked. The veteran, with his blood boiling, called the yokai impressive, saying it was worthy for him to reveal his true strength against it. I know it might seem flashy, but honestly, if you paid attention, you'd know that Senmin, the veteran, was actually pathetically weak. Compared to the others, he was barely surviving. We switched to our busty Mamimaki, dodging a claw attack from the yokai. From her leaning position, sparks appear on her palm, indicating a sword being drawn. True to form, a blade arcs through the air, perfectly stabbing a yokai through the skull. Our busty mommy, now squatting, doesn't give the yokai time to counter. She swiftly rises, unleashing her signature technique. One sword, one kill. Numerous different swords emerge from all over her body, floating around her. With swords in hand, she blitzes through the yokai, landing precise headshots. Wherever she passes, turns into a burial ground for the yokai, all killed by a single blade through the skull. Her devastating rampage is stopped, however, by a giant yokai, one vastly bigger than the rest. Maki, akin to an ant in its presence, curses. Although flashy, her technique had a really long cooldown, leaving her completely defenseless. The yokai, capitalizing on her weakness, unleashes a mighty punch towards her. The punch, only halfway through, is stopped by a whip sword latching onto the yokai's arm, digging deep and drawing blood. At the end of the whip sword is our conservative mommy Shion, gliding through the air, giving the folks some great fan service. Pulling on the sword, Shion is propelled towards the giant yokai. Performing a drift maneuver, she glides across the yokai's body, leaving a deep cut in her wake. Jumping back from the creature, she pulls on the sword and completely splits it in two, blood and body chunks flying everywhere. True to her loan shark name, she swiftly reaches for her notebook, listing down the life-saving measures she'd just performed, intending to charge Maki for it later. Maki denies the claim, insisting she wouldn't die from a mere yokai. Over at the boys' side, a mighty blow, glowing in a blue aura, squarely lands on a yokai's head, easily bashing it in. This was the Thunder Fist by Beastmask. Nice and Beastmask, like a well-oiled machine, effortlessly dispatch the yokai, their prey's limbs dropping like flies. Continuing his charge, Beastmask performs the lightning headbutt, delivering a blow to the yokai powerful enough to curve its face in. He proceeds with the simple kick technique, sending the yokai flying. Nice, having finished chopping a yokai's head off, yells at Beastmask, telling him to stop making up weird names for his techniques and just draw out his sword. Beastmask, now choking the lights out of a yokai, replies that he's one to talk. The sword Nisi was wielding was just a normal sword and not one drawn from his body. Nice, being the goat, calls Beastmask perceptive. He says that he'd vowed not to draw his sword until he avenged his master. Hearing his reason, Beastmask calls him impressive as well. I'm not sure if you guys have picked up on it yet, but obviously these two are Ren and Yuhwa. It's actually pretty obvious. Back to Sho and the chief, the latter is scared by a dead yokai. Sho comforts him, telling him he wouldn't be defeated by such a yokai. He had no reason to worry. Noticing the chief's sullen face, he remarks that the chief seemed more frightened by something else other than the yokai. This accusation deeply startled the chief. He asked what Sho meant, but the rookie downplays it, telling him not to worry about it. We see that the squad is finished with their warm-up. Maki Mami complained about her clothes getting dirty, while Lone Shark is busy tallying her kills, preparing for the reward. Maki, eyeing her clothes, said she'd like to wash up before eating. Shion, still tallying her kills, teases her, telling her she was too flashy in the fight. Senman, bloody, commented that it was unnecessary for them to get involved. They could have managed without them. Beastmask, however, quickly calls him out on his BS, reminding him that he fought to the death against only one yokai. The chief, appreciative of their efforts, welcomes them to use the hot springs as they await their meals. Beastmask complains, saying he wanted to eat first before washing up. Senman accepts the chief's invitation, saying it's a good thing he's covered in yokai blood. Sir? I believe that's your blood. Later on in the hot springs, Maki Mami, with a nosebleed moment, soaks in the steamy water. She remarks that she's definitely more suited for field work than office work. Soaking up in a hot spring after a fight is what she needed. Shion, adding a little feast for the eyes, questions her, asking if she didn't find the mission odd. Maki nonchalantly brushes it off, saying they should just knock out any problem they'd come across. She turns to Shion, telling her she's always overthinking things. Shion teasingly comments that with a monitor like her, the alliance was going downhill. Maki, switching topics, commented on something the Chads actually want to know about. She asked Shion if her chest grew bigger. Shion, embarrassed, asked why she was suddenly talking about her chest. Why don't they talk about the steam covering all the good stuff? Over at the boys' side, the guys are just chilling in the water, enjoying the lack of soundproofing. Senman, gazing at Beastmask, asked where Sho was. He was with him earlier. Beastmask simply replied that the rookie went to check on something. The scene takes a grotesque shift, with a bloody severed arm laying on the floor. Turns out the arm belongs to Sho, who finds himself in a rather precarious situation, facing a giant yokai, one vastly bigger and more powerful than the others. Helpless in his dire situation, the beast swiftly swallows him whole. Early the next morning, the squad, led by the chief, stared solemnly at the severed and discarded hand of Sho. The chief informed them that a villager had stumbled upon it on his way to the farm. He hypothesized that it might belong to Sho, the squad's missing companion. Without a word, and with only concerned faces, the squad collectively stared at the bloody arm. Senman, always the fake veteran, analyzed that based on the arm's elasticity and muscle strength, it should belong to Sho. Honestly, I don't know if this guy is pulling a god Usopp, or if he's the real deal. Nyes chimed in, saying the probability of Sho still being alive was very low. Shion agreed, highlighting the lack of signs of struggle or abduction nearby. Maki Mami joined the conversation, questioning Beastmask, and asking if he was the last to see Sho alive. Beastmask admitted to this, clarifying that Sho had left to investigate something after they entered the hot springs. Shion noted that it was a common mistake by hot-blooded rookies to go solo on their investigation and end up dead. Nise interrupted their mini-discussion, saying the arm had been cut off by a single swift blade. To achieve that, the yokai responsible must be of a higher grade than the ones they fought the previous day. Despite his serious analysis, the trio of Mommies and Beastmask just looked at him in shock, puzzling our boy. Maki Mami, with her bouncy plot, exclaimed in surprise, asking Nisi if he could see what was in front of him, referring to his blindfolded state. Nise nonchalantly replied that the fabric used in the blindfold was see-through. He just didn't like lights. He further pointed out that even when they were traveling to the village the previous day, he had to complete half the journey driving the carriage after the chief got lost. The squad, obviously disappointed, had different reactions to his truthful declaration. Senman said something about the cloth hiding his golden eyes, but no one cares about that. Let's focus on our mommies. Our busty mommy, Maki, stated that if he wore a blindfold, then it was only logical to open a third eye, vehemently gesticulating her meaning. Our other mommy, Shion, disappointedly commented that the blindfold wasn't a power-sealing one but a light-blocking one. Beastmask, ever the weird one, stated that the blindfold should have awakened the power of darkness within Nise. Nise, having had enough of their useless chatter, shouted at them to shut up. Picking up the severed arm, he opted to leave before the squad's idiocy caught up to him. He further highlighted that the marks on the arm proved the opponent was not a yokai, something Senman actively agreed with, speculating that it might be the work of a yosu or, in the worst-case scenario, a yokai. Beastmask, confused by their ramblings, asked what they were talking about, and what the so levels they were spouting were. The two mommies asked how he had been doing Shinkan activities without knowing such basics. Senman aka God Usopp dropped some exposition, highlighting the different levels of yokai. They were divided into 4 groups. The 4th grade yokai were mindless creatures with low intelligence and normally attacked in groups. The 3rd grade yosu usually acted alone, had basic intelligence, and could speak. The 2nd grade yokai had considerable intelligence and fluency in language, often disguising themselves as humans after feasting on them. The 1st grade phantom yokai were literally phantom yokai. I don't exactly know what that means, but our busty mommy said it, so I'll just go with it. In history, phantom yokai had only shown up twice, both times ending in disaster with failed subjugations. Particularly in the case of Shuten Doji, who went up against 300 Shinkan and led to them losing 90% of their power. Shion Mami explained that humanity survived even after the failed subjugations, because the phantom yokai didn't seem particularly interested in humans. Senman, bringing everyone back on topic, noted that the situation in the village pointed to a high-grade yokai's involvement. Per the Alliance's rules, they needed at least 6 Shinkan to proceed with the investigation. Since Sho was missing, they had to cancel the mission. Shion agreed, stating that completing the mission while going against the Alliance's rules meant they wouldn't be rewarded. Senman corroborated her deduction, stating that rewards aside, failing to follow the rules might lead to other penalties. The village chief, sensing the odd change in the air, worriedly asked if the squad would abandon them. Beastmask reassured him, saying he didn't care about the rules, he'd simply defeat all the yokai. Maki Mommy, who turns out to be a battle-crazy mommy, said she'd stay for the village's peace. However, from her perverted grin and blushed face, we know she's getting hot and bothered by her lust for battle. Cheyenne Mommy, who initially wanted to give up on the mission due to a lack of reward, immediately doubled back after hearing about the exuberant rewards promised. Senman, grabbing Beastmask by the shirt, gloomily said he'd seen countless Shinkan who'd lost their lives because of such reckless bravado. He still remembered their miserable end. Beastmask, unfazed, commented that it was good if he remembered such heroic Shinkan who didn't give up, despite facing inevitable death. Senman, seeing no peaceful resolution to the problem, drew his sword, planning to stop the squad by force. Maki interrupted their standoff, saying that Sho getting killed by a yokai was just speculation. During such group missions, it wasn't uncommon for a dark blade to appear, targeting their group members instead of the enemy. She speculated that there could be a dark blade among them. Cheyenne, gearing up for battle, told Maki not to create false justifications for a fight, as it would hinder their mission. Beastmask chimed in, saying that if there was a dark blade, it would be Senman. No Shinkan would so easily give up on their comrade. Senman, reacting to the accusation, drew his sword and swung it at Beastmask, instructing him to take off his suspicious mask before accusing him. Beastmask, easily catching Senman's attack barehanded, rebutted that the suspicious one was Senman. It made no sense for a Shinkan to be as weak as him. Maki, the battle-lust mommy, took advantage of the heated exchange. Charging at the duo, she drew her sword and delivered an attack at them both, saying they could easily figure out the dark blade by duking it out. Her nonsensical words enraged both Beastmask and Senman, who asked her what the hell she was even talking about. Before Maki could cause any more mayhem, two whip swords emerged from her shadow, swiftly binding her. The culprit for this attack was Cheyenne, using her shadow detection art, false imprisonment. She didn't mind Maki making up excuses to satisfy her battle lust, but she wouldn't tolerate her threatening their mission and reward. The village chief, watching all the chaos, asked Nisi if he wasn't going to stop the fight. Our boy, still nonchalant, told him not to worry. He explained that those who awakened Shinkan abilities become more aggressive in the face of others' deaths, and it is this aggression that drives them to continue battling yokai. Staring silently at the fighting group, he told the chief not to worry. He wasn't like those mindlessly fighting guys. Saying so, he drew his sword and promptly sheathed it again, causing a loud bang that immediately drew the group's attention, ending the fight. With their attention drawn to him, he informed the group that even if there was a dark blade, they'd handle it when it revealed itself. As for the mission at hand, they didn't have to follow the Alliance's recommendations. The squad collectively knew what he meant, as the Heavenly Swords or their candidates didn't have to follow the Alliance's recommendation. They could act independently. Their tense moment was interrupted by the shouts of little kids calling out for their grandpa. The children, a boy and a girl, ran towards the squad, marveling at meeting real Shinkan. The old man, noticing the squad's puzzled gazes, explained that his daughter had died a few years ago, and now the two were his only blood relatives. Squatting to welcome his grandkids, the chief asked what they were doing there. They were supposed to wait for him at home. The older of the two, the girl, answered that Manabu, the boy, wanted to see the Shinkan. The boy in question, Manabu, was busy marveling at the sight of the squad, calling them cool. His sister rebuked him, instructing him to show proper etiquette for meeting adults. The young boy, startled from his reverie, quickly bowed to the group. Our battle-lust mommy, face blushed from the children's cuteness, received a teasing remark from Shion, saying that she apparently liked something other than fighting. Maki, squatting to talk to the cute bundles of joy, asked them for their names. The oldest answered that she was Natsuki, 7 years old, and her brother was Manabu, 4 years old. The chief, hoping to send them off, asked them to head back home, but Manabu refused, saying he wanted to play with Maki. Well, I don't blame him. I'd like to play with Maki Mami too. Nisei, calling out to the chief, asked him for a favor. He wanted to split the group into two and investigate the village, and he wanted the children to guide them. The chief, obviously reluctant, wanted to refuse, but Manabu swiftly agreed, volunteering for the job. Natsuki told him not to worry. she'd look after Manabu. Though still worried, the chief could only reluctantly accept. We get a cool montage of the group splitting up and investigating the village. From the residence to the fields, they went at it until sunset, and the day was done. Back at the inn, we see Beastmask sprawled out on the floor, lamenting his exhaustion, saying hunting yokai would have been easier. The two mommies, walking into the inn, asked how his investigation went, and if he'd discovered something unusual. Beastmask immediately pointed an aggrieved finger at Nisei, accusing the latter of saying he was going to investigate the village, only to spend the whole time chatting with the chief. Nisei replied that he wanted to confirm his suspicions about the chief. Maki chimed in, saying that the chief was definitely suspicious. She noted a strange caution when he interacted with his granddaughter. Cheyenne, puzzled, asked how they could suspect the kids, especially with how they excitedly bragged to their friends about knowing Shinkan. She believed the Lord was the most suspicious, as spending so much money on the rewards wasn't normal. Beastmask, drawing their attention, informed them that the Lord wasn't weary of his granddaughter. He was worried about her. However, what puzzled him the most was that, despite walking around the village, the only children around were the two siblings. This revelation greatly shocked the group. Nisei urgently shot up, asking where the kids were. Cheyenne replied that Senman had taken them home. As they prepared to act, Natsuki called out to them, informing them that Senman had a message for them. She innocently reported that Senman had pulled out of the mission and planned on returning home to make grave markers for his fallen comrades. Maki, startled, asked if the message was fake, but Cheyenne rejected the idea, saying the code matched that of Senman. Nice, taking charge, asked Natsuki when her mother had died. The little girl, counting, answered that she had passed away when she was 2 years old. The group, doing the quick math, noted that it was 5 years ago. Yet the younger sibling was 4 years old. Senman was in grave danger. The scene switches to Senman, carrying Manabu on his back. The suspected yokai asked him if he was really going to give up and leave. Senman confirmed this, saying that adults should know not to get involved with things that didn't make sense. Unbeknownst to him, the cute kid, Manabu, had dropped all pretenses, taking on a more evil form, his vile aura radiating. Manabu, secretly drawing his sword, questioned Senman. If what Senman said was true, then why did he send Natsuki away? Senman, seemingly unaware of the murderous intent Manabu was emitting, casually replied that it was a precaution, just in case Manabu used her as a hostage. Manabu, unveiling part of his yokai transformation, smirked and called Senman perceptive. However, it was already too late. Saying this, the yokai baby struck at Senman, its tiny dagger aiming for a lethal blow. Blood splattered in the air, indicating that the blow had indeed landed. But just when it seemed over for our god Usopp, the panel zoomed in, showing that he had blocked the attack. The blood came from a slight cut on his cheek. Although it's unclear how such a tiny slice could produce so much blood. It's Senman, our god Usopp we're talking about. Dude might have even bluffed the manhwa artist into glazing him a bit. Smirking sardonically, he teased the yokai, saying he had enough experience to handle situations like this without any prior countermeasures. The yokai baby, not buying the bluff, attacked again, telling Sen Usopp that his bluffs wouldn't work. Sen Usopp, as if to prove he wasn't bluffing, swiftly grabbed the yokai baby, yanking it forward and slamming it into the ground with force, creating a miniature crater. The yokai's small dagger flew from its hand. Hold the fuck on, Senman. Where did all this strength come from? And more importantly, why didn't you use it on Maki Mami? The yokai baby, knocked down, got back up, and, enraged, questioned Senmon, asking if it was acceptable to treat a baby so roughly. Senmon, not backing down, replied that it was an adult's duty to discipline foolish children, especially a damned yokai. The yokai baby, still grinning maliciously, drew his sword. The sword, bathed in green flames, didn't fully manifest. It was still attached to the baby, seemingly impaling him. Senman noticed this odd change and donned a somber expression. He noted that although yokai sometimes used weapons, there was only one case where a yokai could use a divine sword. If they had consumed a divine swordsman. The evil smirk on the yokai's face confirmed his suspicion. Slightly worried, Senman asked the yokai if he had eaten sho. The yokai baby casually confirmed, saying stronger divine swordsmen usually satisfied his hunger. But Sho had been a weakling, leaving him unsatisfied. That's why he had come out again looking for more prey. Sen Usopp, now enraged, attacked without another word. However, the yokai baby easily dodged, putting distance between them and mocking Senman's swordsmanship as slower than his perception. Deciding to go on the offensive, the yokai baby attacked, spinning like a top and using the sword impaled in his body to create a 360-degree weapon of destruction. He unleashed a barrage of attacks on Senman, who could barely hold his ground, gradually losing ground against the yokai baby. Inevitably, the yokai parried Senman's attack, leaving him open for a counter. Mocking Senman, the yokai teased that it wouldn't be satisfied today, even after devouring him. With this, it grabbed its sword and unleashed a powerful slash across Senman's body, his blood staining the ground crimson. Gazing down at his fallen foe, the yokai baby mocked him as a failure. Senman, initially solemn, suddenly smirked. He called out to the yokai, reminding it that he hadn't set up the situation without a countermeasure. With a swift movement, he lunged and locked the baby yokai into a bear hug. The baby yokai, unamused, mocked him, calling it a desperate last stand. But when it realized it was truly trapped and couldn't break free, panic crept onto its face. Our boy had used his trump card, immutable strength. As his body began to turn to stone, Sen Usopp taunted the yokai, telling him that he could hold it there, especially since its body was still in human form and not yokai form. The yokai baby, panicking, demanded to be let go. Senman calmly replied that it wasn't up to him. Once the technique was activated, it was automatic, releasing only when he was safe or dead. He informed the yokai that it would die there, and he just needed to hold on until backup arrived. A brief backstory on our boy Senman shows that he used to long for recognition. He never slacked off, believing in the saying that effort would not betray him. But as he grew older, constantly struggling in life-or-death battles, he finally saw the error of his ways. While he had to give his all just to survive against basic yokai, others like Aiji and Hibuna easily dispatched them. Watching these two prodigies breeze through what he struggled with, he realized the harsh truth. Effort can never surpass talent. Even so, he kept going, believing he could grow stronger. But his ability, almost like a curse, was simply a power that allowed only him to survive. He watched his comrades die gloriously in battle, while he could only look on, no different from a tombstone. Yet he refused to give up. Even if no one acknowledged him, he was resolute to make a difference in his own way. Sen Usopp's backstory is really tragic, but moving on. Who is this milfy demon mommy? Did he really think I'd overlook a demon mommy because he was giving a sad backstory? Dude is underestimating just how down bad I am. Anyway, back to the story. The yokai baby, noticing a crack in Senman's technique, laughed. He mocked Senman, saying he'd die before help arrived. Flashing a brilliant smile, Senman sardonically replied that this just meant his safety was guaranteed. Suddenly, shadowy tendrils erupted from the ground, swiftly binding the yokai. Hearing a shout urging him to fall back, Senman quickly released the yokai, his lethal wound still leaking blood. Meanwhile, the little beast found itself trapped, now the target of Maki-Mami's signature technique, flowing sword rain. A barrage of swords fell from the sky like rain in a thunderstorm, all aiming at the yokai. Desperately seeking escape, the yokai noticed a break in the shadow binds and immediately freed itself, dodging the barrage. Busty, Maki-Mami, seeing her attack missed, yelled at Shion for not holding the yokai in place. Shion Mami casually replied that she'd already warned her. Her technique became unstable after sunset, so it wasn't her fault. The yokai, furious at the two baddies for arguing while ignoring him, finally abandoned his restraint. Charging at them with twin daggers, he resolved to feast to his heart's content. With the starry sky as a backdrop, it lunged at our mommies. However, his charge was suddenly interrupted by a swift kick from Beastmask, sending him flying. Before he could process what the hell was happening, Nisa spawned in, slashing his sword and demanding the yokai's blood. Staring at the blade aimed at his neck, the yokai paled visibly. Reacting quickly, the yokai decided to unleash his trump card, Demon Transformation. Instantly, a gigantic behemoth manifested before the group. With a casual swing of its tail, it sent Nis flying, effectively thwarting his ambush. Landing with a mighty presence, the demon yokai roared, exerting its dominance. The squad, initially fired up, couldn't help but hesitate. The yokai was proving more formidable than expected. The yokai, noticing their hesitation, roared at the group, bellowing at their defiance and promising to gobble them up. Realizing the change in the situation, the squad immediately took up battle formations, each ready to counter at the slightest opportunity. Back to our boy Sen-Yuhwa. With Beastmask's help, the bluffing Chad leaned against a wall. His grave injuries had effectively taken him out of the fight. Addressing Beastmask, he said he'd tried everything he could. His strength could only get him so far, and now the rest was up to them, the stronger ones. Beastmask, somberly gazing at his gravely injured comrade, encouraged him. They weren't the only strong ones around. He too was strong in his own way. Sen-Yuhwa, calling him out on his bullshit, told him not to glaze him. He'd only held on tight and hoped they'd arrive soon to rescue him. Beastmask, the therapist, informed Sen-Yuhwa that cunning yokai like the one they were dealing with would have likely escaped at the slightest sign of defeat, making it impossible to catch again. His efforts had prevented that. Channeling his inner online guru, he hit our boy with a motivational quote: "To become stronger, don't be arrogant, and don't be ashamed of yourself." Senman, falling for the budget Jordan Peterson line, eagerly asked if someone as trash as himself could really get stronger. Beastmask affirmed, saying there might be limits to talent, but there are no limits to effort. Not gonna lie, our boy Beastmask is actually cooking here. Snapping out of his reverie, Senman replied that he wouldn't believe so easily in a rookie's words, though he appreciated them. Looking up, he noticed Beastmask was long gone, fearlessly charging at the yokai. His last words echoed in the wind. "I'll appreciate it after beating the demon." Watching him go, a slight smile appeared on Senman's face. The fight wouldn't be easy, even with the goated Beastmask, but he was sure they'd manage somehow. Noticing his severe blood loss, he decided to rest up. The rest would be up to the group and Nis, the Celestial Sword candidate. Back at the fight, our conservative Mommy Shion unleashed her Shadowbind technique, effectively trapping the yokai. Gazing sardonically at the beast, she accused it of causing the recent disappearances in the village. Maki-Mami, joining the fight, agreed. However, the beast was proving more formidable than expected. "Maki-Mami, what's up with the fan service? How is this an acceptable dodging technique?" "Not that I'm complaining." Nis chimed in, noting that there were still unresolved mysteries surrounding the yokai. Noticing the approaching Beastmask, he asked how Sen-Yuhwa was doing. Beastmask replied that a little rest, and he'd be as good as new. Maki-Mami, striking a fap-worthy pose, encouraged the squad to finish off the yokai before Senman woke up. The yokai, enraged by their chatter, told them it was too late. They should have fled as soon as he revealed himself. "Damn, bro, do you even lift?" Roaring loudly, the yokai went on the offensive. With its mighty tail, it swung at the group, sending Nis and Maki flying like ragdolls. Shion Mami, capitalizing on the demon's distraction, launched a counterattack. But her efforts were swiftly thwarted as the demon grabbed her and mercilessly slammed her into the ground. The yokai, fired up by its might, roared, tearing Shion's whip sword to pieces and further emphasizing its dominance. Flexing all its muscles, the yokai emitted a powerful aura, a foreboding sense of doom settling over the group. Maki-Mami, picking up on the ominous change, shouted a warning to the group. Nis chimed in, urging them to block the attack and stop the yokai at all costs. Solid advice, but what the fuck is going on here? "Nis, how dare you defile our busty mommy?" Responding to the warning, Beastmask swiftly made his move. Using his signature high jump technique, he sprang into the air, rising far above the demon. Using gravity to his advantage, he launched a devastating punch on the yokai's head, caving it in and slamming the beast onto the ground. Task completed, the mysterious hero performed a flip, landing majestically before the squad. Just like that, the enemy was felled in a single punch, courtesy of Beastmask. The squad was understandably shocked, wondering how it was even possible. But there was no time to dwell on it. They had more pressing matters. The yokai wasn't dead yet. They needed to cut off its head to be sure. Nis also had a burning question he needed answered. Pointing his sword at the fallen yokai, he demanded to know why the chief had called them for help and involved the alliance in this mess. The yokai mocked them, calling them foolish. The chief had been acting on his orders. He was the one who instructed the chief to summon them. This revelation shocked the squad. we get a brief backstory for the yokai. Apparently, in this manhwa, everyone gets a backstory, even the yokai. Sigh. Anyway, the yokai was originally a mutant among demons, small and weak from birth. For years, it survived by consuming weak human children. That continued until one day, when it was preparing to consume another child, a divine swordswoman appeared. He thought it was the end of the road, but then something unexpected happened. The mighty swordswoman got down on her knees, begging for the child to be spared and offering herself instead. Initially confused, the yokai quickly recovered and questioned the swordswoman, asking why he should trust her. In response, she relinquished her divine sword. Using her technique, equivalent exchange, she traded her body for the child's safety. For the yokai, that became an unforgettable memory. Even as he consumed her, he couldn't take his eyes off the child and the swordswoman. Was this motherly love? It tasted delicious. He'd consumed countless children to no effect, but after devouring a divine swordswoman, he instantly evolved into a demon. There was no turning back. Ordinary humans no longer satisfied him. He needed divine swordsmen, stronger prey. Exploiting humanity's weakness, their willingness to do anything for their children. He struck an agreement with the villagers. They'd offer divine swordsmen, and he'd spare their children. Watching the squad's disgusted expressions, the yokai laughed maniacally. He enjoyed breaking the human spirit, showing that humans were no different from demons. I don't know how to feel about this. I understand a mother's love for her child, but is it really acceptable to give up without fighting? Sure, she saved her child, but what about the countless other victims now that her actions have made the yokai stronger? How will she take responsibility for them? Or maybe I just don't understand a parent's love. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Back to the recap. The yokai smiled sardonically at the squad, savoring the despair in their eyes. Roaring loudly, it unleashed its true form, a multi-limbed, grotesque behemoth wielding countless swords. It flashed the blades, yelling that they symbolized humanity's hypocrisy. Maki-Mami, startled by the sight, wondered just how many divine swordsmen the yokai had devoured. Shion, however, was focused on something more dire. How were they supposed to survive against such a foe? Maki calmed her down, reminding her they had the trump card of the alliance with them, Nis. Her hopes, however, were quickly dashed. Lost in rage, Nis charged recklessly at the yokai, ready to end it. The two mommies called out, warning it was too dangerous to go alone. But our boy was too far gone, his thoughts clouded by fury. He wouldn't stop until he saw blood. The yokai, noticing the reckless charge, seized its chance. With a single punch, it launched Nis, sending him spinning like a rag doll, his pitiful expression on full display.